If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm talking to Rich Jones. Rich has had let's say a varied career. If anyone knows him off TikTok, you'll probably know what I'm on about. He's an accomplished author, so I'm looking forward to buying his books, and there'll be links in the show notes for them. Hi Rich, how are you doing?
How you doing? You okay? Thanks for getting me
Yeah.
on.
No, like I said to everyone, if people didn't come on, I'd be sat here on my own. I wouldn't be able to do them. So it's just the same questions that I ask everybody else. Where did you grow up? Why did you join the military? What did you do? Why did you leave? And what did you do afterwards? So if you just want to let us know where you grew up and why you joined the military.
Yeah, so if anyone could tell by my accent, I was born and bred in Bristol, so which is the southwest of England, in case anyone doesn't know where that is. It was all right. I liked it. I was born in '69, which is a good year. Sort of reared in the '70s, and my old man was in the police force. So my mum was a hairdresser. So I had what I would say was a good stable upbringing for a while, at least, with myself and my brother. And typical '70s kids. They're out playing outside till the streetlights come on, all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? We used to, the sort of things that most of today's snowflakes would fear, we found that as fun. We used to have stone fights for fun, stick fights. Let's have a stone fight. All right, yeah, okay, cool. You stand at that end, we'll stand this end, we'll chuck stones at each other. And that was our entertainment.
Like mud fights, get like lumps of mud and then put stones in them.
Exactly that.
Each other.
All the sort of stuff that I don't see kids doing anymore. We would make dams in the stream. In fact, we used to make that many dams in the stream. We used to sit there with our boots on and just hoof off a turf off the side of the river, carry it round, build a dam right through it, and we would literally block the stream and back it all the way up. So growing up as kids, it was just an adventure, a pure adventure, and we were hard lever in the house. And the only time we knew when they come in was when you'd hear your mum shouting for you at full fucking blast, like, Richard, Craig, and you could hear her for miles. Her voice would carry, and the same as any other kids, it'd be nice in time. And that was like my childhood, and I enjoyed it growing up. It wasn't within the city, it was kind of on the edge, so it's quite suburban, if you like. Loads of fields, playing around, and we used to live in police houses, which is like the same as probably military quarters, I guess. We just subsidised housing for the people serving in the police. And we remember, certainly back would have been the very early 80s, maybe the late 70s, sat on our shed roof, which looked out across the fields. And we remember watching the skinheads and the punks and the mods fighting on the fields. And that was our entertainment when we weren't out playing ourselves, was watching that lot beat the crap out of each other on the fields. And it was proper. It was bad, but that was what we saw. That's what we entertained us from the safety of our shed roof. So growing up was kind of like, it was nice. It was all right. And it was all going really well. It was all going swimmingly until 1984 when my parents decided to separate and divorce. And I've said this on previous podcasts, that it's not a blame game of no one was wrong. It's just the job my dad had was very, let's call it stressful, and it involved a lot of drinking afterwards. He was in the flying squad. It was very violent in the 80s when it was on, when the Sweeney were on. So he lived a very violent and dangerous life. So my dad was naturally, we didn't realise it at the time, but suffering quite bad PTSD. He used to drink a lot. He wasn't a violent man to anyone in the house, but he was just drunk. It made him quite difficult to live with. So my mum and dad sort of went their separate ways in 1984, and I think I was 14, and at that age of 14 years old, when your whole world just shatters, doesn't it? Your mum and dad split up. It's like, oh my God, at that age as well. And I said, it was probably one of the most devastating things I can remember. There's more devastating things more recently have happened, but that was the worst thing in my life at that time. Because at that time, when you're that age, you haven't seen nothing, you've not experienced
No.
anything. So divorce is bad news. So that kind of knocked my trajectory of wherever I thought I may have been going in my school life, in my direction, because I didn't really know what I was going to do anyway. My thought was I always wanted to aspire to be like my dad. You know, we lost my dad in January last year, so I always wanted to be like my dad. So me and my brother used to run around with his police notebooks and his pretend warrant cards that he'd make for us, pretending to arrest people in the park because they were, you stop vandalising that roundabout. We're going to take your name. We know your dad's a fucking copper. Fuck off. Oh, right, okay, I don't care. Off I
What are you playing?
Off I got my push bike. So we sort of, I wanted to aspire to be more like my father, and he said to me, I think I was quite young. I hadn't at the point left school. I was becoming slightly dysfunctional around about that 16, 17 time. He said, whatever you do, don't join the police, because it kind of, that's one of the reasons. He didn't want to unload too much onto me, the reasons why, but he kind of alluded to the fact that that's what ruined my marriage, was being in a job. He said, don't join the police, son. Think of something different. And that's when I was about 16 years old. So around about that time, it's more like 85, we watched the first Rambo film, First Blood, on a pirate DVD. And I remember watching that, and I remember the bit where he was running away from the police in the woods. And I, for some reason, it just made me want to do that. I want to be, not much, I didn't even think of the army, I just sort of wanted to be in that element.
To be Rambo.
I want to be Rambo. I want to be a soldier. I want to be that man. So I think it was like, within a couple of weeks, I was off down to the centre of Bristol on Colston Avenue where the careers office was. I thought, I'll go in there. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just walked in there. What do you want to do? I said, I'll join the Marines. Well, I don't know where that came from. I said, yeah, there's the Marines desk over there next to the Royal Navy, next to the Matlows. So off I went over, sat there, he looked at me, he went, loads of hair. It's like mullet. Back in the original days of the mullets, I had hair everywhere, a big bush of black hair. He looked at me and thought, you want to join the Marines? I said, yeah. He said, right, I had to do some sort of application for it. I got knocked back. I got a letter saying, sorry, you've been refused. You're too young. You're not ready for this. I clearly wasn't ready. So I thought to myself, oh, bummer. So I didn't know what to do. I left school. I was sort of faffing around with different jobs, just pointless, ridiculous jobs. Nothing that had anything to it. But at that time, when you're leaving school as a guy, they're not really encouraged to do much more other than some sort of manual labour. I think it's right. Men, go and be a brickie or a plasterer. Girls, go and have babies and do home economics. That's where you're going, and it's a little bit limited. And the whole thing about computers that were just really coming out. They've been out for about 2 or 3 years in schools, so I just didn't know what to do. So I kept faffing around with different jobs, and I got to the point where I was 17, and I got fed up with it, and I thought, I think I'll reapply for the army again, because I wasn't really doing very well at home. I was getting arrested, but I was certainly getting to the point where if I wasn't careful, I was going to get arrested for some stupid nonsense. So I went back down to the careers office again in, I think it was like December 1987. And I kind of walked in there and I thought, army, it's going to be there. So I told my dad this. I said, Dad, I want to join the army. He said, brilliant, son. I support you all the way. So I went in there and I kind of like didn't really want to go, but wanted to go, and I was sort of very half-hearted. It was kind of like, do I really want this? Is it really what I want to do? Because round about that sort of time, I just started to go clubbing, just beginning to grow. Just at the age of 17, I was going to my first nightclubs, and I was going into these massive clubs full of. Back then, it was lasers and dry ice everywhere, and it was music from the 80s, and that's what we were used to in throughout sort of 1987, and then as we crept into 1988, the music started to change a little bit, and I'll go into that in a sec. So I applied for the army, and I waited for a while, did a few aptitude tests. They said, right, okay, yeah, you've been accepted so far. We're going to send you to Sutton Coldfield to do your 36 hours, a day and a half, I think it was, or just going to do
something like that.
Do your fitness tests and your run and your press ups and all that sort of stuff. So I went to Sutton Coldfield in, I think it was end of March '88, and I still wasn't that fussed about it, because by this time now we were really enjoying our clubbing scene, because house music had been invented. and it had arrived. It had landed in the clubs, and it was like, "What is this
It landed
magical?"
in Bristol.
It landed. I thought, "What is this magical stuff?" I remember the song. It was things like S Express,
Oh,
which
fucking hell.
the theme from S Express. That the first time round. And there's a lot of other songs like that from that era. So if anyone watches, just Google house music from the late 80s, and you know the sort of stuff I'm talking about. And I loved it. And my friends, as you could see, there's a sort of thing gathering when a particular song came on, and it was house music. The floor would just fill with everyone, and it's like, wow. And this is way, way, way before any sort of drugs were involved. It's just drinking ridiculously. So I did Sutton Coldfield. Got through that, got issued my number, did my interviews, and yeah, you've passed, you wait for your letter. So I got back from Sutton Coldfield, went and did the old Queen's Shilling, where you can sign,
Yeah,
do the
testament, yeah.
oath of allegiance and stand up and get given a quid. Did that.
I got a £5.
Oh, did you? What year did you join? Bloody hell.
1985.
Fuck it, a fiver. I think, they might give me a fiver. I remember
Yeah, I
getting
think it was. I think it was a £5.
it might have been a fiver. Yeah, it was, yeah. All right,
It was
maybe
when
a
we were
fiver.
at Sutton Coldfield. They said, right, did anybody leave before such and such a time? And
Yeah.
like, only a couple of people put their hands up and they went, should we try that again? Because you get extra money. Fucking everyone's like, oh, yeah, it was us.
So I got me fiver then. I've just earned £4.50 or £4 without knowing it. And then we had the dates coming for basic training, which was 88 intake 8809. So it's May 1988 in Catterick. And I remember going into this nightclub. It's called Studios in Bristol. And we were just dancing around. And this is the weekend before I was going away. And I was getting quite known in there. We were all getting known regulars, and it was nice. The bar staff knew who you were. The DJ would play the songs you liked. It was becoming quite. I liked it, and
It's coming home.
it was, yeah. It's becoming something, and I really had this big thing for clubs. I don't know what it was. I just got really drawn to it. I just loved the atmosphere. And this girl said to me, I remember her name. She's called Kay. She said, "Oh, so you're off to basic training tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, Sunday. I'll start Monday morning." She said, "You ain't got it in you." I said, "You what?" She said, "You won't. You'll never pass. Look at you. You got no chance." I went, "Right, fuck you. I'm doing this." So that was she was my motivator. She motivated me to
Without
make sure.
realising.
I thought I simply cannot fail now, because if I do, she's right, and I didn't like her that much anyway. So if I fail, I'll have to go back and accept failure. So off went the basic training, and I got through it. I won't say it was easy, because I did zero preparation, no prep whatsoever. I mean, that's what basic training is for, isn't it? That's what I thought anyway. So I got there, passed out July the 3rd, 1888. And that was it. Shipped off to the unit in Germany, BAOR, to the 3rd Royal Tank Regiment as a
So what made you
lieutenant.
choose the tankies as a job?
Well, it's kind of
Don't say you were going to join the Air Corps.
Oh God, no! Do you know what? If I could have done, I would, but I don't think my aptitude was enough at the time. My grandfather was in the 44th Tanks,
Right.
so my dad said to me, he said, "Look, go into the tank regiment. Your granddad was in it." He said, "I've got a friend who's an ex-tanky. He'll tell you all about it." And at the time, which I didn't know about, was my dad's best friends or closest friends and work colleagues. This was in 1987, 88. He was at this point been elevated in his job to MI5 with the special branch, and he was the 2-2 liaison officer working with the regiment. So his close friends were serving SAS soldiers. And what I didn't realise, that my reference was given by one of my dad's friends when he joined it. He got a couple of references. Was the RSM of the SAS? Maybe that's why I got through. So that was one of my references.
He's shit. Have you read this letter?
Yeah, oh, he's good. Let him through. So I kind of went to the tanks, because Dad said, "Look, my mate's ex-tanky. Your granddad, my dad, was a tanky." He said it would be such a lovely thing, and it's not a bad little number. So I thought, why not? I've got nothing to base a comparison on, have I? So let's do the tanks. So I did, and I'm really glad I did, because we got to wear black, unlike everyone else in green. So we would stand out in the basic training. You got all your green overalls, and you got the old black one in there, and it was just, you could feel that sense of regimental pride creeping in already. And the cav bastards, the donkey wallopers, we said, "Oh, you got no history." He said, "Well, I don't care about history." He said, "I look better than you do in my black uniform." Simple as that.
Why? I never knew that. Why did? I mean, I knew they wore black, but I never knew the reason why.
It's because we were the original tank regiment, because we were formed from the Royal Machine Gun Corps to be the tank corps in the First World War, and because we were the first tank regiment, what they did, because we were working on these dirty, oily, diesely things, we'd be covered in grease and shit all the time. So dress them in black, we won't be able to see the mess. So it hides the grease, and it does.
Yeah,
and so they get like a weird shine on them where you've ironed them enough times, you've ironed all the grease and oil and diesel into them. Although they're washed, they're never that clean, because some
clean.
of that grease, when you're servicing the guns. And the
You know
worst
what,
thing is,
you're saying that I can smell it.
yeah, well, if you're a cloud puncher, you'll know what these things smell like. And I don't know if you've been in the turrets of some of your mechanized
I
guns.
started off in habits.
That fucking silver paint, did they put that silver paint inside the turret? That gets all. If you've got black overalls, you come out, you're covered in silver.
Yeah.
It doesn't stay on the fucking metal, does it? So so I was in black beret, black this, black flashes. Great, Men in Black. It was lovely. And off to the unit. September 1988, landed in Germany with the other 55,000 of us, or whatever it was, and I had no idea what to expect. And it was good. It was
It's a shock, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to describe to people now how big it was over there, because when I arrived, and probably the same for yourself, when you landed, we I don't even know what airport we flew into. First of all, being on a plane, got to the airport, you're still in your civvies. Yes, we're in a civvies, and we off we go, and there's loads of like people in different units or different areas. Like what regiment you going to? Oh, throughout, what year are you going to? Right, you're on that bus, and you got a load of army buses lined up, about maybe 10 of them, and they're all just dispersing across parts of Germany, and then they're not empty. They're filling up with men, and this is every 2 weeks. I think, used to go out there, because the intakes would roll over every fortnight. So every 2 weeks, you'd be shipping that many people out there. And it was buses full of men. And off we go. You'd be like, right, who's going to let's say Osnabrück, for example. Right, yeah, you lot, off you get. 3 RTR, yeah, me. All right, off you get, mate. Fuck off. This is your stop. And into the guard room, and you arrive at your regiment. And that's like, everyone says to you, you think basic trainings are, wait till you get to your unit. And you think, what do you mean? And it's like a real eye-opener, isn't it? Because I think when you first go in, the first thing which was nice was everyone had the same cap badge. That was nice. I felt like a part of something. Oh, right, we've all got the same cap badge in there. And then everyone had the same accent. Because I've been in basic, people from up north, down south, east, west. It was everything. So we all kind of like learned how to level down our accents so we could understand each other. You learn not to understand, don't you, very quickly. And so we all had Southwest accents, or the majority. You get your random Jock and your random Welsh person here, don't you? They just throw them in there just to add a little bit of entertainment. But generally speaking, it was a Southwest regiment, Devon, Cornwall and Bristol. And it was all right until we realised that we're going to have a rough ride for at least a year whilst you're new in Germany, is the word. And then that's abbreviated, the acronym of NIG is what we were called. Now, we still say that. It's not extending it anyway, but we were known as NIGs, and that was it. And so if anyone missed that, it's new in Germany. And you would be that.
In the artillery, we used to say new intake gunner.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, same thing. So, but you're guaranteed you're going to get shit for a while, aren't you, from the rest of the lads?
Definitely.
That shit rolls downhill, and it hits fucking hard, especially that in that time when there's no cameras around, there's no CCTV, and
well, it was expected anyway. So
yeah, you're kind of half prepared for a bad time, and I think basic training does sort of level up your resilience a little bit, doesn't it? It teaches you to take a bit of shit because you have to. And then you get to a unit and you realise that there's nowhere to run. You got to accept whatever's coming here because you're in fucking Germany, and everyone that cares about you is back in England, and you just got to take whatever comes because it's being done for a reason, you hope. And it was a lot of bullying, a lot of shit going on. And you're just hoping that someone else new arrives fucking soon so the flak can be put onto them. But not just someone new, has to be new in your squadron and then in your troop. Because then that that's the new focal point. It took about 8 months for someone to arrive new to end up in my squadron. It was fucking horrible. But as we spoke about before, it's a drinking culture. And I think there's a lot of how can I put it? When the drinks are flowing, and so it's always a Saturday. Every Saturday was an absolute nightmare because I wasn't one for the naffy bar. I'd rather chill out and watch a movie or watch a film or something. Put BFBS on and watch the telly or something like that. And what you had is the senior troopers, if you like, would be like the ones just before they get the Lance Jack. They'd be on the piss like from 10 o'clock in the morning, down the naffy, get themselves a couple of yellow handbags, come back, and they'd be on it. So by about midday, 1 o'clock, that's when they come knocking. Yeah, that's when they want to start having a bit of entertainment. And you can hear them in the corridor on the block. And if you fuck me, they're coming down now. Oh, shit. And you don't lock your door. You think if they're coming in, they're coming in, and they'll walk in, fucking absolutely asshole, and then they will literally, it's to the point of you're almost to the receiving end of some form of abuse, and I'm talking anything, anything. It's just like they don't care. They simply do not care. Luckily for myself, I managed to avoid anything serious. I had a few slaps, a few digs here and there, but luckily it wasn't that bad. But it was the psychological thought of, oh, here we go again. But that passed after about 8 months when someone else arrived, and
so thankful for that.
It's a long 8 months though. But once that sort of time had elapsed, you're kind of settling into the flow. You're getting used to your job on the wagon. I was a gunner. You then start like, okay, let's get this guy crewman. Let's get him another trade. So you're then a tank crewman. You do all the jobs on the tank rather than being one or the other. You do all of it. So you're slowly creeping your way through to being recognised and respected. And I think one of the things which really, I think, is the most entertaining for the lads, which is your initiation. It's your official initiation. And it's called a special. It's a drink, and it's usually down the bar. And I mean, you'll know the price of drinks in a naffy bar is like one Deutschmark for a drink, roughly 30p back then.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? So they said to me, right, Jonah, it's time for you to have your special. You've been here for a few weeks now, and you need to get this down your neck. So they walked off to the bar. My mate Tim, who I joined up with, he was in 5 troop. I was in 6 troop, one or the other, and he was doing his at the same time. So they both turned up with 2 drinks, one for him, one for me, in a pint glass, in a stand glass. So right, get on the table. Yeah. Down comes your trolleys. Oh God, there's like women in the bar. Oh Christ! And they hand you this pint glass, and it's just like, I don't know if anyone's seen The Young Ones, where it's raining outside, and Vivian puts his hand outside the window in a pint glass and fills it. It's just spitting, and it's got all this stuff dribbling down the side of the glass. It's like that. It's just curdled. It's got cigarette ends in it. People are spatting it. God knows what else. You can't see through it. It's just thick sludge. Right, get it down your neck, son. So you literally stand on a table, just drink this pint. Mine had a pickled egg in it. I had to eat that as well. But once you finish that was it. You're in. So right, well done, mate. Good lad. Pat on the back. Tally ho, well done. You're part of the regiment now.
Especially if you kept it down.
Especially keep it down. They did advise to go and throw it up because it wouldn't be very healthy, but I couldn't puke it up. So that was it, really. The first year of crazy initiations. And as a tank regiment, we didn't really plan on doing much apart from getting plastered most weekends and going out. But we were given the opportunity to deploy to Northern Ireland in 1990, June or July 1990. We had the chance to go over there. So we then spent about 6 months. We dismounted from the tanks, mothballed them, and then started retraining up and refreshing as infantry, which we found really interesting. So what we did at this time, because we needed to take over a bigger unit, because an armoured regiment doesn't have the right amount of people as an infantry regiment does. So we had to draft people in from other units. So we got a load from 2 RTR, we got a load of donkey wallopers from different cavalry regiments, and we boosted the numbers a little bit. Excuse me. And we spent 6 months training really hard to become infantry, which was good. Because then we got issued the SA-80, which was just behind you, because our first weapon before that was the SMG. And as a tanky with
don't
SMG,
drop it when it's loaded.
Exactly, it'll just go off on me. It just couldn't fire it through a wet parker at 25 meters. I mean, that's the same gun that the stormtroopers used in Empire Strikes Back. If anyone doesn't know what it is, so we got the SA-80 with the SUSAT sight, which was great. And we went off to Armagh, off to the Bandit country in July 1990, and we had a hell of a time. It was just something else. We're based in Middletown, operated from Middletown, Keighley, Besbrook Mill, and Armagh City, and we just spent the first 3 months patrolling the Bandit country, which was looking at the borders between Monaghan and such like, and it was really good because I loved the fact that I could probably get shot. I just liked the adrenaline. I liked the risk. I enjoyed the danger. I guess going back to watching that Rambo film, it reminded me of actually something where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in danger. I liked the thought of fear of my life, and it made me feel alive, I guess. So we spent.
You said the adrenaline rush, yeah.
You do, don't you? And you get used to that, and you kind of need that fix. So we spent 3 months in the rural doing in the countryside. Then we spent 3 months in the city, in Armagh City, patrolling the streets, which is another level altogether. We dealt with a couple of IEDs. We didn't lose anyone, so it was a good tour. It was a successful tour. We all came back, and we all came back healthy, well, fit, and uninjured. Maybe a couple of twisted ankles here and there, but apart from that, we got back. But the problem we had was and again, you'll notice, is back in the 1990. The first Gulf War kicked off. So we remember sitting in our little room in Armagh City, watching a little tiny TV watching Q8 in Baghdad and the Scud missiles and all the tracer rounds going up in the air and the air assault. And we were told, so look, lads, when you get back from here, you're going out because your tanks are already there waiting for you. We sent your wagons out. They've been painted yellow, or sandy colour. They're going to be sat there in the desert waiting for you. So we're thinking, this is just amazing. Not only are we going to go to Northern Ireland, spend 6 months on tour here as infantry, now we get to go and be tankies. This is amazing. And we were we just couldn't believe our luck. So we got back from Ireland in January 1990. We had to go on leave for a couple of weeks just because we needed a bit of decompression, I guess, or a bit of time off. Back to Germany. Within about a day, we're back over to Lulworth then, and Bovington to get refreshed on the systems on the tanks. It's been a year now, so we get back beyond the gunner's site, get used to the systems again. Nothing's changed like riding the bike. You just get yourself competent, ready for the Gulf. So we spent this week in Lulworth having a great time, really intense, and we were just due to fly back, and a message came down from the boss. I don't know. I think he rang the unit or something. We got a call come through on maybe had a page. I don't know what he had, but he said, "Lads, we're not going." And what do you mean? He said, "We're not going. We're standing down for deployment. They've liberated Q8. It's all done. It's sorted." Well, what? Are you joking? No, they said the air assault was so successful that the ground assault was literally just a mopping up business. Said you don't need to go out. I said, but we want to go out there. We spent 6 months trudging around fucking fields, getting soaking wet, and we could, if we hadn't have gone to Northern Ireland, we would have gone to the Gulf.
Yeah,
and we were devastated. We were not just me, but the unit as a whole. Morale was like bang, it dropped.
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it? You think, you know, there's some people that think, oh well, fuck, no, you got away with that.
No,
I've seen. I mean, I was in the first Gulf and the second Gulf, and the second Gulf. I mean, first Gulf I was a BCR, so I spent most of the time in fucking just a tent, and then we ended up guarding the embassy in Q8 City, which was quite interesting. It was a good life. But the second Gulf, obviously, we went out there. I was with 3 RHA then, and we went out and we doing war fighting as we trained to for years.
Yeah,
and it was fucking brilliant. It was excellent.
Oh,
and
mate.
to do the job that you've trained to for all them years,
yeah,
you can't want anything else than that. When you've been a soldier, it is what it is.
That's exactly it. And it was that chance. You feel like you've missed something. You feel like you've missed a chance. And I think what got us in even more is when the tankers came back. I think some weeks later, they took a while to come back to us. They're a fucking mess. They hadn't cleaned them. So these cabs have been. And I remember getting into my tank, and it didn't fill up my wagon anymore because it had been. It's like having a girlfriend. Someone else has been there. It's like
someone else has been in.
Someone else has been in this. How dare you? And there was a photograph. I remember there was a photograph of this guy's girlfriend and his kids like stuck down. But we got all these different systems in there. You can tuck stuff anywhere you like. I thought someone's photographed that. I thought, wow, this tank's been doing its job. And on the barrels there were stripes. We had on the fume extractor, the center of the barrel. there were stripes painted around them, or circles, should I say? And these were every time I take another tank out. Boy, this wagon has been taking wagons out. You know, that's it. It's kills, and I think it's shit, man. And I didn't feel. I couldn't get into it, but although I did, and once we painted them green again, and they've been down the wash down, and we got all the dust out of them, and put them back into temperate colours, we were happy again. But we were just wounded because it took us a while to get over that, and then I was then moved into recce troop, did reconnaissance for a little while. So I lived onto the little tanks, the Scorpions at the time before Scimitar took over from Scorpion, and I was enjoying
that. Scorpion or Scimitar?
Well, the only difference is the gun. To be fair, the shaft.
Yeah, I know, but
I think in truth, I think the 76mm on the Scorp wasn't enough to do the damage it could have done, and it was clunky. Whereas the Scimitar, at least you had two lots of, you could fire 6 rounds semi-automatic. So at least then you could put a spreader, because you're not going to get involved in a firefight and reconnaissance. You just want to get out of trouble. So if you're going to encounter anything, it's going to be light armor. So I think the Rardon was a better choice. But the Scorpion, a little short, stumpy barrel, it looked like a toy. But I was a driver, so I didn't really care. It was the same for me. It didn't really matter. So I was in recce for a little while, and that was good because that's known as the cream of the regiment. The recce troop was always going to be the best in the regiment because you're the fittest. You're going ahead of enemy lines. And that was good because I enjoyed that element of risk. And then we got the phase 1 redundancies came in, and the phase 2s in 92, and then we found out we're going to lose our regiment. You know, we're told, look, sorry guys, the way that it's going now, the wall came down in 89. It's all changing, lads. We're moving out. And that was it. So we ended up amalgamating with the 2nd Tank Regiment, which are the Cockneys, in 1992. And it was a good amalgamation, to be fair, because what we had was we lost 3 and 4, and 4 joined with 1, 3 joined with 2 to create the new 1 and 2. So 1 RTR, 2 RTR. 1 RTR was the Midlands or north of England and Scotland, and 2 RTR was like the southwest and the southeast, if you like. That was kind of the catchment area. Good, it worked well. It was a good amalgamation, but as anyone who's gone through that era would have known, it didn't come without problems. All the decent lads took the redundancies, and they left. Sometimes not voluntarily. You're having your redundancy, mate. You're going. They weeded out what they called the dead wood, which we called the good lads, the ones which had the fun.
I mean, I was quite lucky. I was when they came around with the lists. Then we were in North Yorkshire, and the chief clerk at the time kept going, "Why isn't his name on it?" So there was all these guys' names on it, and mine wasn't.
Yeah,
and I'd been in longer than a lot of them.
Yeah.
And they were like, why isn't he on it? So they used to make me turn up for all the briefings and everything. And I'm sat thinking, I'm fucking loving this. I want to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
I want to get out, become a fucking different person, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right up to the end, my name still wasn't on the list for the redundancy.
Yeah.
So he called us into RHQ, went in, he says, right, why aren't you on the list? What have you done wrong? What have you done this? Have you done that? I was like, I don't know. You just keep telling me to go on it and stuff like that. So he rang Glasgow. Well, in fact, it was York then. He rang York. Yeah. And they just started, he had someone laughing on the other end of the phone. And he just went, yeah, he's not eligible. And I said, well, why not? He's got call him Fletcher. He's got a fucking previous length of your arm. So, all the time I've been in Nick and AWOL and stuff like that. Comes off your service, doesn't it?
So you didn't get your LSGC then?
No, funny enough. Well, that's another story. I could have got it years later, but there was a little incident with the taxi driver. So we'll go into that one.
Yeah. So yeah, and do you know what I felt for the guys that I felt for mostly? The ones who got redundancy, they're laughing, aren't they? As you know, it was all the sergeants, staff sergeants, people that had been in for a little while. Was the lads that got to stay in, but they didn't get to stay in the regiment. We had a load of guys which were getting posted out for some reason to cavalry regiments. So that's going to wear green. So they were getting sent from the RTR to some donkey wallopers unit, whichever it may be, whatever was left. And for them, we felt really sort of like sorry for them because you thought you're leaving the unit you join. You don't get to be redundancy, but you don't get to stay in this regiment either. It was quite sad. So we amalgamated the Cockneys. Brilliant, really good. But morale was still a bit beaten down by the whole not going to the golf thing. So I was sort of torn with the idea of getting out, but they brought in this thing. I think it came in 90. I think it was 92, maybe 91. This incentive where they pay you once you get to 5 years. They'll give you a bounty. I think it's 1,500 quid. I think.
Yeah,
You
it was.
get
Yeah,
it was, wasn't it? Yeah. So you get like an incentive, like, well done, you've reached 5 years. Now I signed for
yeah.
6.
Fucking hell.
So I thought if I signed for 6, I'd never buy myself out. So like, I get me bounty. Next I joined in 88, so I get me bounty in 1993. Spunk that. That was gone. I don't know what I spent that on. I bought a spoiler for my car. I think it was stupid money. And then we're just thinking about, do we stay in or do we get out? We just didn't know what to do. I say a lot of us had the same sort of approach, because right about 92, 93, some of us, not me so much, but certainly some of the lads I knew, were beginning to smoke a little bit of pot. We were beginning to sort of like experiment because we were so pissed off with not going to the golf. We were getting titsed off. We kind of lost the will to live. So some of the guys were, fuck, I'll join. And we had that sort of, if I get kicked out, I get kicked out. I don't really care. For me, because I didn't smoke, it didn't really appeal to me, but I would have a little puff every now and again. So we're just sort of like coasting a little bit. And then we got a chance in 93 to go to the UN and do Cyprus, which we thought, well, let's jump on that. Definitely. So we got sent out there in, when was it? Beginning of, back in the 93. So we went off to Cyprus. We went, had a really good tour. I really enjoyed it. A real career breaker. It was great for going on the piss. Really bad for sort of progressing your career. It was for me anyway, because my focus wasn't on, because we were doing something called Force Reserve. We were in Nicosia Airport, or the old abandoned Nicosia Airport, and we were a multi-contingency group. So we were British, Austrian, and Argentinian, believe it or not, as one troop. We were Force Reserve. So our job was to mix with the other two forces as UN and patrol the whole island if we needed to. So we were enjoying it. So the rota would be 3 days on guard. So it's like usually 12 on, 12 off for 3 days. You just sleeping and staggered on pretty much. 3 days on patrol, which was really good because we had soft top Shoguns called Pajeros over there, just roof down, cruising the island. Enjoyed patrols, lovely, really good fun. And then 3 days off, which is even better because that was like Napa or Limassol. Limassol during the winter because it's a bit busier, and Napa in the summer. I lived for those 3 days. I didn't care about the other 6. It was those 3 days is all that mattered. And I think my taste for clubbing and partying really came back because I was never really up for it in Germany. I didn't really like the German nightlife. It was far too Larry with squaddies in the clubs. It was just, there was nowhere you could go where you weren't going to have a tear up at the end of the night, or at the beginning of the night, or halfway through the night, or all night.
Just all night. Yeah,
it was
been there, done that.
There's nowhere you go without it kicking off, so it's guaranteed. But when you're in this island of love in Cyprus, it's not like that. So it was like you're on a holiday resort. You're going out, and certainly when we got to, I think about March, and people started to come on holiday then because it was getting much hotter. Wow, what a 3 months we had. The first 3 months were okay, but the second 3 months, amazing. So good, I got gated and could find the barracks because I was basically on the piss trying to tap into this Swedish bird, and I had to get back to camp because I was on duty that following day, and I drove back absolutely assholed, head out the window trying to get back and just keep yourself awake. Got back to camp at like 5:30, 6 in the morning. I'd literally left straight from Napa into camp, looked at the orders. You're on stag at 7 o'clock. Oh God. So I ended up going on duty with an Austrian, and I ended up, long story short, I said, look, mate, I got to get some sleep. I am fucked. It's not covered for you. So I went up to this building, which is a derelict building, which is where our toilet was. Went in there, there's a blanket on the floor, got on the blanket, wrapped up. I just went to sleep. And then next thing I know, the door's been booted open. Looked up, my troop sergeant. He hated me because me being so dysfunctional as one of his troop. He said, Corporal Jones, you're in the shit. And what I didn't realise was that he'd gone out of the gate earlier, and he asked where I was. I wasn't there. He came back in an hour and a half later, and I still wasn't there. I'd been asleep for an hour and a half. Left this poor Austrian down. Of course, he couldn't leave the gate because there'd been no one on the gate. So we had to stay there and hope I came back down again. So the troop sergeant actually did it, hoping I was okay. When he saw me curled up in the blanket, hugging the toilet, fast asleep, he said, Jones, you're a cunt. And that was it then. He could find me in the barracks. I was devastated. I didn't get to go back and see that Swedish girl again. No more R&R. So for the last month of my tour, I was stuck in camp, wounded. So when we got back to Germany, I got back, got off the plane. It was raining. Went on a bit of leave, couple of weeks, met a girl, as you do. And then came back to Germany again. And I was I'd had enough. I generally had enough. I just said to the guy, I sat in a troop cage down on the tank park. He said, "What's up, Jonah?" Or Scottish call me Spick. Not very politically correct, is it? And I sat there. He said, "What's the matter, Jonah?" So I've had enough of this shit. He said, "I'm going to sign off." I said, "No, you're not." "I am." And that was it. Off I went. Marched up to RHQ. Went in, said, "I want to sign off, please." And they said, "Yeah, all right, no problem. There's your paper." And I signed the line. That was it. I did it. And I think a few reasons, really. It was, one was with the amalgamation, promotion is really non-existent. I got my first strike. I was hanging on to it just. Second strike was years away because everything was so go slow at that stage. There was all slots had been taken, hadn't they? There's just no promotion.
It was a lot smaller army all of a sudden, wasn't it?
And it was a very, very tight-knit professional army as well. But they took all the really go-getters and put it together, didn't they? So it was really keen. So everyone was thrusting for promotion, but no one was getting it. So I looked at that and I thought, I'm not going to get me second for probably another 3 years yet. I don't want to be falling behind. And I've met this girl and I thought, do you know what? I think I love her. Never really found out if I did. And the other one was, I'm really starting to, when I'm going on leave now, when I was on that leave after Cyprus, I did engage in a little bit of amphetamine. And that kind of made me see something in that environment, the club environment, which I hadn't seen before. I was like, I had a really good time. I'm not going to, and I get this out, I'm not going to condone the use of drugs at any point, but I am quite flippant with the use because it's important that people can see how easy it is to get stuck in that. So I signed off primarily for those three reasons. And my dad was gutted. He said, "Oh, what are you doing?" So why are you signing off? He's just retired from the police at this stage. I said, "Dad, I've had enough. It's going nowhere." I said, "I want to make this work with my girlfriend." He said, "It won't work." I said, "Oh, thanks for your faith, Dad." It didn't work. And I went into close protection and I thought I was unique. I thought I was one of the only veterans who never left the army to be a bodyguard. How little I knew. So I came out.
So doing that, coming from the tankies to doing CP work, that's a bit of a jump as well, really.
Yeah, and I didn't realise that. I think I was fortunate on some areas. One, because of my time in reconnaissance, working a slightly different job, working with a form of surveillance, if you like. Secondly, my dad, as he'd retired with his job that he had with Five, he was already working as an operative in a surveillance team, so he could get me a job immediately. And then, but the job role itself, working as CP is very different because you're working in 4-man teams, you're working with escort sections. It was a very different sort of animal. But the course that we did was really good. It was really formative, and we learned so much in that 4 weeks. I know you can't learn everything, but we could learn enough to understand how to do the job, and you learn it when you're on the job. But it never really took off in the way that I wanted it to, because all the good CP jobs were back overseas again. And I didn't really want to be going overseas. I just got back to Bristol. I was just beginning to enjoy my life. And I've just got this girlfriend. So I kind of like, so what can I do? And as we said before we started the show, was like, I had this kind of this extended leave for 3.5 months because my lot were sent over to Canada to do op for enemy. So I was on rear party. There was no one there. And as you said, there was no leaving do. There was there was nothing. It was just a couple of, even my closest mates were on op for. I didn't even see my closest mates. There were a couple there. We ended up having over the mess before I left, which is quite good. So we just sort of just left. That was it. Yeah. There was no flags being waved. Nothing. And I thought, I remember sitting on the bus stop, and I got my army duffel bag, and all my kit's going to be arriving some weeks later on in the old MFO boxes. And I sat there and I'm just thinking, is this it? I just started looking at the bus stop thinking, I'm excited. I'm really excited, but I'm thinking I expected more for when I was going.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's no stand by the gate. Bye, Jonah. No, they're just getting on with the business. So I got back to Bristol and I started to rebuild my life. It's where it gets complicated now because I wanted to get the CP and surveillance, and I did. I also desperately was really starting to enjoy what's happening in the clubs because all my friends that were dancing the house music in 1988 when I left, they were still dancing the house music when I came out. But there was an increased circle of friends, and some of them were engaging in drug use. Some of them weren't, but a lot of them were. And I was starting to take amphetamine at that stage, which is speed or whiz. And I was doing door work I did it for 2 or 3 months. Not because I didn't feel capable of doing the job, but I think it was because I stood outside this bar on a beautiful summer's evening. It was 1995, lovely hot summer. Stood outside of this bar, and I could hear people having a great time behind me. I spent the last 7.5 years in the army, missing out on Saturday nights. Every Saturday, I think, I wonder what it's going to be like. What's it like back in Bristol? I wonder what the lads are doing. I bet they're having a great night. And I've really missed it. And I thought to myself, so every time I finished my door shift, because that's when pubs closed at 11:30 or 11 o'clock, that's when the licensing was, I would take a wander down to the local club, which is called Odyssey, walk in there, and the lads would be in there. They'd already be on it. They'd be having a great night, and I would still feel like I'm kind of isolated, like I don't belong to this group. And same when you go and leave and you see your civvy mates, they're all very glad to see you, but you don't quite fit, do you? You don't quite belong to that group. Although they welcome you in, it's your decision to feel that you don't fit. It's not their fault. It's our fault because we fit with that lot back there in the army. That's
because you're different. You are different. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that. You are different to them.
Yeah.
Different mentality, different outlook.
Yeah.
It's no one's fault.
No.
I know what you mean. You kind of feel as though you don't fit in. Look, I left the army 12 years ago. I still don't feel as though I fit in.
Yeah, I still struggle when I'm in social environments that I just don't feel like I should be there. I feel no, I need to be somewhere else. So I struggle with that, and my friend come up to me, and he's in one of the books, and he come up and he said, "You're all right, mate?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." So I'm coming down off that whiz. He said, "Do you want a pill?" And I thought about it for a few seconds, and I said, "Yeah, all right, go on then, fuck it, why not?" So off he trotted, and he came back 5-10 minutes later on, and I'm just stood there, just looking around and seeing everyone having a good time. And I remember I stood upstairs in the club, and remember not the restaurant. It was a little snack shop, if you like, sold chips and stuff like that in a club. Back, I can't remember how that would make any money these days. But I stood by that, looking out over the balcony onto the dance floor, and I'm just looking at it, thinking, "Wow, it's great, but I don't feel like I belong." And he turned up with this pill and he gave it to me. I said, "What is it?" He goes, "Oh, it's a $30." So all right, that doesn't sound very encouraging, mate. I just chucked it in my gob, washed it down with a beer, and waited patiently. And half hour passed, and I didn't know what to expect. I really had no idea what was going to happen. And next, everything just got louder. Like the music, the bass started booming louder. I feel it really sort of pounding through my chest, and I could hear conversations. And I'm not talking like psychosis. I mean conversations as in I could hear people talking. I could look at someone's mouth moving. I thought, I can hear you. I couldn't hear you just now, but I can hear you. And all I could hear was my senses were just so alert. And then I suddenly felt that feeling of what they say is the love drug. That feeling of like overwhelming sense of euphoria and love and the want to be a part of something, to be with people. And straight away, I just walked over to the guys, and it was like massive hugs. And I felt like I belonged to something, which was insane because up until that point, I'd always felt so detached. And then I was no longer was I detached. I was part of something again. But the other thing as well, which is what I hadn't really realised, in hindsight, looking back on it, not so much now, but certainly in recent years, was when I would take that pill. And again, I'm not condoning this. Is for me, it removed the hypervigilance. Gone.
Right, yeah.
Period.
Get that.
So my door work, well, I'm having to be vigilant, army, vigilant, everything else. You're constantly told to be vigilant all the time, aren't you? You're a soft target, check your cars. It becomes tiresome, and it just switched off immediately. It was gone in seconds, and I thought, wow, this is just amazing. Not only do I not feel worried about my surroundings anymore, not only do I not care about what's happening over there, but I feel like I belong to this group. And that was where it really started with the drug thing. I think was that thing, and it was maybe a case of medication, a feeling of not belonging, because subconsciously we don't notice the void in our lives when we come out. We don't realize that there's so much missing. We just know something's not right. And I think for me personally, that ecstasy tablet is what changed it for me, taking that pill. And so I became addicted to the lifestyle, not the drug, the lifestyle. And it was a case of, right, Friday, Saturday. That was our nights out, Friday, usually most Saturdays, but sometimes on a Friday as well. Small group of us, just 5 of us together as our own little solid group. And what we found was one of the guys, he would go and get us our ecstasy for us. We weren't buying them in the club. One of the lads would go and get them for us before we went in there. So that was our kind of, we knew we were sorted before we got into the club. So we went in there and we get all done. And he got to the point where he didn't want to do it anymore. He said, look, I can't do it. I'm getting a bit worried about it all. I thought, fuck, what are we going to do? He said, look, I said, I'll do it. I said, I don't mind. I said, I've done worse. I wasn't afraid to take risks. So he said, yeah, that's fine. You know who it is. We've met him a few times anyway. He knows who you are. There's his number. Go and see him, and then you just take it. Oh, great, perfect. So I did that. So I went and did my first drug deal, and I bought 5 ecstasy tablets, and it's one for me and one for 4 of the lads. So 5 of those. Now we were paying £10 each on these things. Now I went to see this chap, and I bought the 5, and he said, I said 50 quid. He said, no, it's 8. He said, sorry, it's 40. So you get them for 8. I said, I'll get one for free then. That's amazing. So suddenly I realised there's this thing called business. And I thought, okay, he said that's your privilege. He said, you're the one who's making the risk to come and buy these things. He said, don't you fucking dare charge them 8s. He said, you got to make off this, unless you're going to charge them 12s and do it that way. He said, but you've got to make money on this. Okay, make sure you do, because otherwise you're risking this for nothing. And I thought, but I mean, mates, he said, no, they are your mates, but this is a business transaction. They're happy paying 10. If you, and he's very, very, how can I put it? What's the word I'm thinking of? He was very positive, and he really, he was convincing. You're very convincing that I should definitely charge them 10s. So I got back.
So you've got a drug dealer teaching capitalism.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I charged them 8s. So I charged them 10s. I got mine for free. And what we found was this little tiny community of just the 5 of us in this club. We sort of like noticed there's an area in the club where we could strongly suspect that everyone else down there is probably taking ecstasy. So we thought, let's go and gather around there with these people, because it's a nice little community. It's nice. Everyone's loved that. There's no trouble. So we got down there. We started to get to know people and build on it. And what we found is being regulars in this group of people, and it's maybe 15 or 20. It wasn't a huge group. We found being regulars there was that I began to find that people would come to me and say, oh, Rich, have you got any of those pills left? I said, no, I only get just for me and the lads. So I said, but I'll sort you out next week. And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. I made a conscious decision that this lifestyle I'm enjoying, if there's money to be made, and I was still doing security, still doing surveillance work, but I could do a little bit on the side. That might pay for my nights out. It might pay for my pill and my drinks and my taxi. That was all that really mattered. If it paid for the night, then that's perfect for me. So I went and saw the guy. Said, could I get 10 off? Yeah, and he said, yeah, no problem. Pay me on Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, oh yeah, no problem. So went out, made myself 20 quid. Instead, a little bit more. I thought, okay, this is getting better. So that 20 quid back then, that would get me enough drinks to get drunk. That would get me a taxi home. So it grew from that, from just like 5 or 10, and it ended up me getting 50, and it was 100. And then I thought, well, this is too many to bring into the club. So I'd always take some into the club. But around about this sort of time, a couple of guys I knew left the army, and we were all living in these flats for a housing place called Hague Homes, which is for ex-forces. And we kind of had, there was this two Victorian houses being converted into 6 flats. I was in the top left, as you're looking at. My mate was in the one below me. My other mate was in the one next door to him. So it's like being back in the block without the rules, with drugs. So, oh God, here we go. This is going to be chaos. And it was parties. Everyone, the gathering that we had in the club, which is growing all the time. We ended up that it was known as Pillhead's Corner in the end by everyone there, and they knew what was going on. And the gathering that was in there, most of us would come back to my flat, which was tiny. It was teeny, and I used to have to limit the people coming in. So my buzzer to get in top floor is one of those, push the bell, and I'll push the key on the thing in my flat, and it opens the door downstairs. So the buzzer, luckily, it was one where the longer you hold it, it keeps going. So if you push it once, it goes, eh, eh. I developed a code, which I'd change every Saturday for people to come to the party. So, right, the new code is this. Eh, 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 eh. And after you always groups 3 sets of up to 3. Maybe like 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. And if they don't get the code right, you ain't coming in. And then people down there pushing the buzzer randomly, hoping they come in. No, sorry, you don't know the code. And then people literally crazy.
He's got his vision to like loads of people on ecstasy learning Morse code.
Oh, could you imagine it? And we're on the top floor, and you can hear music coming out the window, and there was no neighbours. I can't think why. And it was just absolute chaos. It was getting that organised in the club, certainly from 96 until 98, where we were doing this for 3 years in the club. Certainly for the last 2 years, when my mate was involved as well, we had it properly sewn up. So what we had effectively was, we had the door controlled. We had a couple of door staff on board with us, paid with ecstasy. We had 2 bar staff, because there are like 5 bars in this club. 2 bar staff on separate bars, paid in ecstasy. So that was our drinks covered. We had the assistant manager on board. So he would bring our stuff in for us during the day. So we have to carry it through. During the day, bring in a bag full of pills. He'd sort it out for us. We had the DJ and the lighting jock on board as well. So we had a good spread of people across the club working with us to create that perfect night. The music, the drinks, security. It was absolutely amazing. And that was 3 years I remember very little about. It was just, I just remember certain parts of it. And it was it was just chaos. It was craziness for those 3 years. No trouble. There was no dramas. There was no one getting stabbed or shot. It was very gentlemanly. It was the 90s, and it was like the equivalent of the 60s. That's how it felt like. It was just a peaceful, happy time with some major come downs on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But generally speaking, we were going out. I say we because we were pretty much all I was doing. It was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, 3 nights a week going out. Sunday, recover. Monday, try to recover. Tuesday, you're beginning to get your faculties back. Wednesday, right, back on it Thursday again. So Wednesday was your only day where you felt relatively normal. We did that till about 98, back in the 98, when I met my then wife, who's now my ex-wife, in the club. She knew nothing about it, and I know she fell pregnant quite quickly, and our first son was born in 1999. And once I knew she was pregnant at the beginning of 99, I thought, I've got to sort my shit out. This is just not working, because she's not down the club. She can't drink, so it's not fair for me to go out. So I stopped going out. I literally downed tools, and I said, right, anybody wants anything, you have to have it before you go into the club, because I'm not down there. I couldn't trust my mate. My mate was working it with me, who was my neighbour, ex-forces in my regiment. Couldn't trust him to do it, because he just used to eat them all, or spend the money, or both. Either way, he was getting us close to being in the shit, because he was just spending the money quicker than we were making it. And we weren't making much. We were only making maybe a couple £100 each a week. It wasn't a huge amount of money, and by the time he'd spent 200 or 300 quid of that on being flamboyant and pretending we're making thousands, there's nothing left. So me and him went our separate ways, and I went and got a job working for Initial Textiles, driving a van. I just took any job. I've been technically unemployed for 18 months, did a bit of surveillance here and there, but technically unemployed. And when you got a job, just driving around in a van, delivering tea towels and overalls to garages, laundry to hotels, that sort of stuff. And what I found was this van was the perfect cover for delivering drugs as well, because it was a sign-written van. It was part of a mass company, so I would literally go into work in the morning with my bag with my sandwiches in it, full of anything I needed, and my routes on the van were set, but strategically I knew that if I was in Bristol, I could say, right, I'm going to be in this area at this time. I'll see you there. Or I could take a diversion. And I'd walk in someone's house with a bag full of tea towels. No one knows that it's got another 100 pills in it or a bit of cannabis. So I use this van to sort of accelerate my career. And what I found as well was when I stopped clubbing, I began to realise that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday didn't exist properly. I wasn't coming down from drugs anymore. So I found myself a bit more driven. So the business just really started to expand. It fluctuated in and out, but it was growing, and it was the direction I went in the end. It was, I guess, subconsciously a decision I took initially to be a part of something, and in the end it became the main breadwinner. And the reason that the security didn't take off and the door work didn't take off was some of the jobs I did for security for allegedly reputable companies. You do the surveillance job for them, they wouldn't pay you. They say, well, you haven't got us a result, we're not paying you. You got to pay me. I don't have to pay you. He says, you do, I've done the job. It was becoming really difficult to do these surveillance jobs for people and then not pay you the money, because it's before the SIA came out. So a lot of the people involved in the security industry were ruthless villains. Certainly the door work and some of the close protection. I did CP work for the Frank Bruno fight in 1990. I think it's back in the 95 when he won the world championship against Oliver McCall. I was doing ringside for that. We did an Oasis in Nebworth, doing backstage, looking after the VIPs there. And I've never seen cocaine, but that's when I first saw cocaine, was in backstage of this Oasis gig. So the people that I was being exposed to these different things involved in the drugs industry, which I think I wasn't ready for. So I ended up getting just fully hooked on selling the stuff, and it just sort of progressed from ecstasy sales, which would fluctuate from like a 1,000 a week. In the end, I was buying 5,000 or 10,000 a week, and it was they were flying out, but they weren't making any money anymore. They in 97, 98 we had the great ecstasy crash, the crash of Wall Street, the great ecstasy drought, and there was nothing good around it. And what happened was a new pill was landed on the scene after there being nothing for ages, called a Mitsubishi, which rebranded the whole thing. People used to call them Mitses rather than ecstasy. And what happened then was, because it was a branded item, because there's no copyright in the drugs game, people were copying these things and putting less and less ecstasy into them. So the quality was dropping. So we ended up with a price war. So when if I was to buy, let's say, for example, 1,000 pills, let's say back in mid-97, for argument's sake, I may pay around about then, let's say, for argument's sake, £4 or £5 a pill. Son of a 6 or 7. 2-3 years later on, you're paying £2 or £3. Eventually, I'm buying them, let's say some 5 or 6 years later, I'm paying 30p a pill. So something's got to give. But they're not being sold on for that much money. They're being sold on for like 50p a pill. So you're making 20p on a pill. So you're making, pennies, which is not worth the risk for going to prison. So I stopped selling them. I'm not going to bother with those. They're just not making money. So I then looked at where the customer base was, looked at what my suppliers were doing, and they said, oh, maybe you should try cocaine, Rich. Okay. So I just looked at it as an option. I thought, well, I don't really have a customer base for it. I don't want to get involved in selling grams running around, because I've got a young son and I've got I got married in 2002, so I was due to get married around about 2001. So I said, all right, I'll look into it. So I started getting in with a friend of mine. We immediately got involved in adulterating it immediately rather than buying it. And as it was, there was never enough to go around. So we get one, turn it into 3, and then do it that way. So I took a quarter of a kilo once, and I tried to bash that out to people that I knew where they were getting their stuff from. So that, okay, do you want to try mine? And I grabbed the customers and pulled them in that way. Bit of a hostile takeover for some people, but I took a few, and that's the direction I ended up going in. And that was when life became horrible. The people involved in that industry were just such different animals compared to the ecstasy game. Ruthless, greedy,
Dangerous.
You name it, anything with an us at the end of it, and horrible, they were it. And it was highly stressful. And I found myself going through this phase. I think it was round about 0203 time. Still had the one son. My second son was born in 2005. Around about 0203, I was having to work with some really dangerous people, some pretty horrible characters. And what I found was the buzz that I used to get when I used to go and buy some ecstasy, I'd get an adrenaline from that, from the risk of getting caught. And the payoff for me wasn't the money, it was that I'd managed to get away with it and not get caught. That was my payoff. That was my reward. When I was selling the coke, what I found was working with people which were highly unpredictable and very, very ruthless was that there was no payoff. The risk was there. It was elevated considerably. Yet there was no euphoria at the end. It was just relief. It was like, oh, thank fuck, I've done that. Thank fuck, I've got him paid off. It wasn't like, yeah, I fucking pulled that. It changed, and it was gone. That euphoric sort of sensation of like the the adrenaline shot that you get after successfully completing something dangerous. It wasn't there anymore. It was gone. It never came back, and it then I realised then that this is it's not good. So I was desperately trying to find a way out of it. Always was. I never really wanted to be involved in it. I just needed to find an income enough to support my wife and my son. But
And I mean, some people would say you took the easy way out by dealing drugs, but it sounds as though it wasn't the easy way out. It sounds more stressful than fucking most jobs.
It's a really good point, actually. Because some people say that drug dealing is easy money. I said, have you tried it? Have you? And no. So I can assure you, it's not easy. The way that the way it's potentially good money, but easy money is maybe driving a taxi with an old lady in the back. That's easy. Excuse me a sec. A frog in my throat. But it's definitely hard money. It's just the rewards can make it look like it looks like it comes easily, but when you add the stress that you're working with, it's really hard. And I find
I mean, people don't say that. They say, I mean, what's the fucking layer cake?
Yeah.
If anyone's watched Layer Cake, if someone started listening to your story, it doesn't look like Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
I've not seen you in Speedo, so I don't know.
Not yet. I haven't stood up yet.
They'll be thinking that, as much as, I do. You think someone's a drug dealer, especially when you start talking about like coke and stuff like that. You just, you have your imagination runs wild, and you think, lock, stock, and stuff like that, and it's all fashionable.
Yeah, but do you know what?
But it's not.
A good point you raised there is Layer Cake is I think is one of the closest films I've seen to how I live my life. Now, I don't know how many people would agree with this, but do you get anxiety if you watch Layer Cake? Because I get extreme anxiety when I watch it. It sets me off.
Because I know the ending.
Yeah, well, it's for me. It's not even that. It's the stress that's put onto Daniel Craig's character in that position. I've been in those positions, and I think, fucking, I remember that. And I get extreme anxiety when I watch Layer Cake. I get anxiety watching Rise of the Foot Soldier films because although some people said a bit blown out of proportion, I mean, I find them highly entertaining. Craig Fairbrass is brilliant at portraying a character and the sort of people that I've come across in real life. So I get anxious watching Rise of the Foot Soldier and Layer Cake, like bad anxiety.
Yeah, I get that.
So it's that's the reality of it, and it's so that they're so real. Aspects of them are so real, So that world into cocaine was really turbulent, and it maintained its turbulence right the way through. As I was trying to get out of it desperately. So one of them was to say, right, can I set up a business? So first, and it's usually had to be a cash business because I need to do a bit of laundering or allegedly laundering to get it going. So right, let's try a snack van. So I tried that. That went tits up. That's featured in the first book. It was actually in the book I portrayed it was a car part stand. It wasn't. It was a snack van that I had. So that went tits up. Just while in that time frame when I was working in the snack van when it went wrong, it was in spring of 2006. There was a massive arrest, and this arrest meant me losing. I'd just taken on board 3 kilos of cocaine on credit, which you do anyway. That's how you do it. It's all done on tick. And there was an arrest which led the police to the address where it was stored, and I lost it. It was seized by the police. That put me in a hole of about 80 grand overnight. And then I had to pay that off. So I had to sell everything I owned. Now imagine trying telling a wife who's just had our second son, how do you hide that all this has gone so wrong? Because they don't know about it. They just see me with my snack van that's doing all right, and it's not doing all right, then it's doing all right. It's very up and down your business, Rich, isn't it? Oh, yeah. So how do you sort of?
So she had no idea you were.
No, anything clandestine that I did, I said I was still doing a bit of surveillance on the side, a bit of security. So I always use that as a plausible reason that I would be evasive or secretive in any way, and it worked. I mean, she was, bless her, completely clueless about it, which is either a testimony to my ability to lie, because my dad being in the police force when I was a kid, if we were naughty, we had to lie really well because he'd find out. So we learned to be evasive from a very young age. So I think I just carried on the tradition of just hiding the truth. So trying to hide the fact you're now 80 grand in a hole and you've got to sell your car and we can't afford the rent. So I've had to then fake. Well, I didn't fake it. I did actually have a mental breakdown. I tried to kill myself in early November 2006. I had enough. I was paying some of the debt off. And I'd had a proper breakdown. So after me failing to kill myself, which I was quite relieved that I didn't succeed, I had this moment where I'm going to sneeze. I may sneeze in a minute. Where I thought I need to get this done. This debt will not kill me. So I signed on to the doctors. I went on the sick with depression, started to get some benefits through, started to level off the household bills a little bit, because I wasn't working. I wasn't earning money. Any money I earned was getting paid off for a drug debt. So I was running around for other firms, collecting money, delivering drugs. I was doing everything. I mean, my days were long. So in the end, I got, I think, about halfway through paying this stuff, maybe slightly over halfway. I was down, but it was going up with interest payments. So it may have started about 80. It was certainly paid off more than 100 by the time I paid it off. In the end, I was given the opportunity to go overseas and do some. I didn't know I was going to be smuggling, but I was told to go and meet a firm over in, I was told Benidorm, to bring it back over again. And the plan was I'd go over there, they'd give me the money, I'd go over there, meet this firm, get a couple of kilos off of them, bring it back, and they'd knock some money off the bill. And I was going to do that as well as everything else. So that's like the second book, which is Overseas Operations, is all about my trip overseas with these firms. And that in itself was I'd
imagine that's fucking scary.
Hell of an experience. So the aim was to, and so many things which I didn't even consider, is you get given your money in the UK. So it was 42 grand, I think, thereabouts. So they're paying 21 grand on each one. Okay, so I got 42 grand. I'm not taking it over the sea in English denomination because they're too big. 40 odd grand is about this big, even if it is in 20s. So you've got to change it up in England first into euros. Now you can't just walk into the bank with 42 grand or into Bureau de Change and say, there you go, change that to euros.
Down in Asda.
It's just not happening. They're gonna raise some sort of questions about that. So it's all done through dodgy networks. People that know people that operate and they can get hold of these things through the bank. There's Bureau de Changes which do it, but they don't operate due diligence in the same way. They may give you a slightly lesser rate though. So that was the first risk, was handing over 42 grand of money that wasn't mine to a firm that I'd never met, only through recommendation. And then they came back and I gave them a little duffel bag, a little rucksack with the money in. Rucksack came back, it felt fucking empty. Hang on a minute. So I just go to the toilet a sec. I want to check it. Opened the bag, I looked aside, where's the fucking money gone? They've had me, I thought I've been robbed. Put my hand in and found this envelope in the bottom. Opened it up and it's full of €500 notes, which I didn't know existed. And I then looked and I thought, no way, they're 500s. I've seen 200s and 100s, but not fives, these big purple things. So I looked at, right, 42 grand, I need 84 of them. No, 84 of those. So I just counted 84 out, got it wrong, panicking, slowed down at 84. Okay, 42 grand in euros, boxed off. Don't even need the bag for this, back pocket job. So that's my first learning curve, was the way the money changed. Overseas, overwent. Now, the aim for me was to drive over. I was going to go Portsmouth to Le Havre because I wanted a night crosser to get a little bit of sleep because I was getting quite tired. And then to drive down through France the next day to the Pyrenees, go into Andorra-la-Velle, check into a hotel, buy a 3-day or 2-day lift pass. So that's my reason of being there, was I'm going skiing with the lads from the army. So that's why I took some ski kit in the boot, had everything ready, me old ski jacket and me crappy salopettes, everything else. That was my reason for being. In case customers pulled me on the way back, what have you been doing? I've been skiing in Andorra. There's my. So I got down to Andorra, paid the hotel on the card, bought the lift pass on the card. So I had a digital trail of me being in Andorra. It was there. That's me. That's my footprint, if you like. And the aim was then, they said, right, drop down the next day, out of the Pyrenees, down to Benidorm, back, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hour drive maybe. Meet these guys, back into Andorra for tea and biscuits for another day, maybe even have a day skiing, and then drive back up. That was the plan. So anyway, when I'm sat in Andorra, in the hotel in the night, the guy that I'm doing this for, the guy that I owe the money to, rang up. He said, got to change of plan. I said, yeah, what's that, mate? He said, you haven't got to go to Benidorm now. So are they coming close? He said, you got to go to Fengarola. I said, all right, yeah, no worries, mate. I didn't know where Fengarola was. It's Costa del Sol, isn't it? Down the bottom of fucking Spain. It's like an 11-hour drive. So I said, there's me thinking, that now blows my little skiing trip out of the water now, because I'm now going to be down this water. I thought, actually, still could work. I could get down there for the one day, pick up the drugs, stay there for the night, and then drive back up. And I could still, in theory, not have a day skiing, but still, in theory, I'm on my footprint would say I've still been in Andorra for those 3 days. All right, fine, I'll do that then. So next day, off I go down to Fengarola. I got there about 11 o'clock at night. Met my contact, fucking scouser. What's going on? Where did he come from? Anyway, met him up. He put me in a hotel for the night. I thought, this is all right. He said, I'll chuck you in a hotel, mate. He said, you had a long drive. He stuck me in a 4-star hotel. So I thought, I don't mind this. It's quite nice. It was in, when was it? February. So it was winter, but it was warmer down there. He said, I'll come and see you in the morning, have a chat, and tell you what the plan is. Yeah, no worries, mate. So I had a bit of breakfast that day, and he came and saw me. He said, let's have a look at your car. Let's see what motor you're using, because we want to see if it's a good car, if you're going to get pulled, any problems, where can you stash it? So we're looking around it. He goes, you got a renter? I said, yeah. He said, right, that's one tick in the wrong box. He said, you're another tick in the wrong box. I said, your profile says you're a courier. Great, visibly. So have a look at your boots. He popped the boot open. In the back, I've got my DOS bag, which I carry everywhere, just in case I have a breakdown. So I got my army slug in there. He goes, what fucking unit were you in, lad? I went, I was in the tank. He goes, I'm an ex-Royal Green Jacket. I went, no way, you're a squaddy. So that was it. He said, fuck it, lad, come on, let's go and have some breakfast. So we walked off straight away like that, just bonded immediately. He said, look, I'll be honest with you. He said, if you go over carrying that, looking like you do, they're going to pull you. He said, you're high risk. He said, look, we've got stuff going over anyway. Why don't we put yours with ours? And we got a courier taking it. He's not going to, there's 2 more. It doesn't matter. He's paid to do the job. And then you work with us and help us to sort of like do the logistics around that. I thought, you're in 100%. So he teamed me up with him and his other mate who was an ex-para. So there's three of us, three veterans over in the Costa del Sol, just doing this little bit. And I won't go into too much depth about the various meetings, but we did 3 lots over there. It was with the Colombian cartels in the end. It was who we were meeting up with. And we did a bit of escorting the guy that was carrying the drugs in his vehicle. We were escorting out like a satellite all the way up through the Spanish peages, through the French customs, through the tolls. I was doing like an advance party, making sure the tolls are clear of police. Right, there's no police here yet. Come on through. They go through, I'd overtake, go back and do an advance party again. So we sort of leapfrogged or pepper potted our way up there, if you like. And that was it. We did that, and then it went a bit tits up in the end because I think he ended up owing a lot of money to the Colombians and he disappeared. We'd never seen him again, so he vanished. We don't know how. We don't know whether he did a bunk, whether he was caught by them, or they got him. Yeah, we don't know. Truth is, we just don't know. I speculated at the end of the book that he got a certain ending, which is more entertaining, but we don't know what happened to him. So that was that. That was the end of that. So basically, what happened then is I kept clawing back this money for the debt. Eventually, paid it off. Got the debt paid up, and I was happy then. But what I found was I spent a good 18 months just struggling so much, seeing how much my wife had struggled and how much the kids went without. And for the first time, it was in sort of, I guess, around about the spring, the sort of like mid-spring 2007, the money that I was making, which was starting to pay the debt off, I didn't have to pay the debt off anymore. That was money from me. And I thought, there was one time I think, fuck, I've actually got some money for a change. And not just a little bit. It's a few quid. I'm not talking tens of thousands, but it was a good couple of grand suddenly earned and no debt to pay. So I thought, Christ. So I thought, I need to get out of this. I got to get out. And I was frantically trying. So I spent a few more months just trying to earn some money, get a bit of cash in, and make sure get the house sorted out, just make sure the wife was looked after, just get everything I could for her because she'd gone through hell with me without even knowing she's going through hell. So I spent the rest of that year working on that. And then what I did is in 2008, the beginning of 2008, I was getting back into my performance cars. I've always loved my performance motors. And I started getting into sort of looking at motorsport. And I looked at an option of it was a bit of a whim initially. I just quite fancied just doing some fast driving on an airfield. So I created my company, Launch Motorsport, in around about April 2008. And what I did was I'd already by this time I was buying cars left, right, centre. I had enough money to go out and buy and spend 10 grand on a car, spend 15 grand on a car. I had the money around then. And it was easier to buy then because there was slightly less due diligence than there is now. But you couldn't do that now. So I set this business up doing track days on an airfield. Or I would go rent a part of an airfield in Cirencester. And I would basically staff it with marshals, my dad being one of them with his little red flags waving around, and I'd put a snack van on there, I'd get a St. John's ambulance on there, and I would sell tickets online on all the different car clubs. Right, come on down to this, it's going to cost you 50 quid for the day, and you've got a whole day on the airfield and we'll manage it for you. I didn't care if I didn't sell any tickets because I was going to go and have a whole day of my own on the airfield. That was my mentality. But I was selling out every time, getting 50 cars down there. So I was bringing in 2.5 grand on that, which covered all the costs of the the St. John's ambulance, the marshals, the snack van, the rent of the airfield. That was covered, and I was still having some money left over. I thought, okay, there's actually money to be made. I don't have to put money into it. So I started doing these track days every month on this airfield, as well as suddenly, I think it was in May of 2009, I did my first ever track day on Castle Coombe Race Circuit. I've been doing loads of airfield days, so I really got to grips with the cars, but I did my first track days. And I was bitten by this bug so much. So it was something, it's the first time I've done something which I felt I belonged to since taking that like fucking pill back in 95. So 12, 13, 14 years later, I found something, and I found motorsport. I found this lifestyle, this way of life, this structure, the discipline, the adrenaline, everything I ever wanted. So I started to develop that, and I took the track days from competing. I was amateur level competing in time attack. And then 2010 came and I turned pro. So 2010 started off my best year and my worst year. So basically started off, the company was doing well. I was racing at a professional level in saloon racing, time attack. I sponsored a 3-car team in the British Drift Championship. The company name was everywhere, everywhere. It had to be to make it successful. During a recession, which may have looked odd to some people, so how come this guy's got so much money? He's doing really well, and everyone else is flat on their ass. And I'm like being really flamboyant and doing really well. So everything was going well. I set the garage up, started building that in June 2010. Motorsport preparation. The aim was to get people in to develop their cars. All the people doing my track days. The name was really out there. It was really starting to make an impact in the motorsport scene and the track day scene and the events. And so I got the garage set up, and that opened on the 1st of October 2010. Did a big grand opening day. And then the plan was to hand over the drugs business to someone that had been managing it for me. I said, look, I'm out. I'm done. I need a little retainer just to keep this afloat for as long as need be until I don't need it anymore. So look, you chuck me.
Okay, it is layer cake, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, mate. I mean, I'm not even. There's so much I can relate to in that film. It's like I was there, and I said, look, just chuck me $4,000. That's enough to cover the garage bills, the wages, and then any money made in the garage is a little bit on top. So that was the deal. So that was set. That was in place. And then on the 28th of October, there was an arrest because I was still just handing over. You know, it was kind of like the transition was going, right, get the garage going, keep myself in it for a few months, hand over, and then we're good to go. So I was going to sort of be doing that for maybe another month or so. So October was like my last month. Sent this guy out. He got nicked. I thought, what the fuck's going on? I had quite a big firm by then. So this is odd. So my guys don't get nicked. We're careful. We're good at what we do. You know, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've kind of honed these skills to operate in a certain way. So we don't just get nicked for silly things. So I thought, right, shut the drug scene down immediately. So I did. I said, right, that's it, shutting it down. Could have done with the money, but didn't maybe need it. So found after a few weeks' time that it hit the news and everything else. We don't know why he got nicked. He was remanded in prison. He was just over a kilo of cocaine. But I was beginning to struggle financially because not only did I have to pay for the bills for the garage, I had to pay back the money for the development of the garage as well, which was about 70, 80 grand. So everything I had, I was struggling with. So I was beginning to sell off stuff from the garage, which I didn't want to. There's loads of, I guess, assets I'd accumulated over the last 2 years, which were worth a good few quid. Parts of cars, parts of racing cars, having to sell it. So the guy that was managing it for me said, look, why don't you go back and get back in it again? It's been a month. I said, nah, mate, I don't like it. Something's not right. He just give it one more. I said, look, get yourself a couple of quid in. I said, I got no runners. He said, well, I got someone for you. So, fuck it, go on then, all right. So I sent this guy down south to do a job, to pick up something. On his way back, he got nicked. I thought, hang on a minute, fucking hell. So, that's definitely stinks. So that was it, shut down straight away. I thought, two deals, 2 arrests, nothing in between. That's definitely, I'm being watched 100%. So that was it. I left it. And then December comes in, it's freezing cold, it's horrible, it's business is bad. We had that really cold winter in 2010. It was just horrible. And I'm sat in my garage and it's 30th of December and I've knocked the staff off and my phone rings and it's a lad that used to be one of my regulars. He goes, I should do a little bit because it was like mates. Right? So look, he said, Rich, can you help out? I said, no, mate, I'm done. I'm out of it. He said, but do you know anyone? I said, well, yeah, but I don't want to get involved. I said, look, all right, I'll give him a mate's number. All right, you go and see him and just do what you got to do. You do your thing. Right, my mate's like, this guy wants to sort it out. Can you help him out? Because yeah, no problem. So they exchanged numbers, left them to it. So New Year's Eve, I'm sat there in my garage and my phone rings. It's the lad that wants it. I said, what's up, mate? He said, your mate's not answering. I said, well, just ring him again then. He said, well, all right then. My phone rings again. It's the other guy. I said, what? He said, your mate's not answering. I said, oh, Christ, they're probably bouncing each other's phone calls off each other. So they just both rang me, which shows a conspiracy triangle. So just sort of take note of that one. And so what happens? They eventually catch up. They go and do their deal. I just thought nothing of it. I'm sat there in my house. It was like, I think 10:30 on New Year's Eve. I'm just trying to enjoy myself, but I just can't get into it. I'm already know I'm in the shit. And my phone rings, and I thought, what the fuck's this? And it's the lad that had bought the stuff. I said, "Are you okay, mate? Happy New Year." He said, "No, I just got out of the police station." I went, "Oh, for fuck's sake." He got nicked. So he did this deal, and he got arrested when he drove away from it. So then we know for sure that we knew there was an investigation going on. And that was the last cocaine I had anything to do with, was December the 31st, 2010. So then I was really waiting to see when they're going to come and get me. So I'm just going through the winter thinking, well, they ain't come yet. I'm not doing anything yet. Getting to sort of like early spring, March, no one's come yet. I might be right here. I might have just slipped through the net. And then April comes, and I'm sat in my garage. I'm sat at my desk, and I've already sort of said to people in the garage, look, it's struggling. I've let 2 people go. I've let 1 mechanic go. I've let my manager go. I was just me and 1 mechanic left over. So I'm sat at a man in the desk, and it's about 8 o'clock, 7:45 in the morning. So the mechanic hadn't arrived yet. And I could see out through the window, through the door, quite a nice spring morning, to the hard standing where we used to park the cars. I just see these 3 dark cars just eclipse past the door. I thought, no, that's for me, isn't it? And I thought, fuck, here we go. I just got up and I walked out, and I saw these 3, I think it probably focuses on fact, loads of large gentlemen and a couple of women debust from these vehicles, probably about 9 or 10 of them, I think. And I thought, oh, I'm definitely fucked here. I looked at him, I said, good morning, how you doing? He said, Rich Jones. I said, yeah. And so he walked up to me. He said, we're arresting you for conspiracy to supply controlled drugs, namely cocaine. And I just said nothing. I thought, fucking hell, this is it. This is it. When he said conspiracy, it took me back to the first meeting of my mate, the one I said about, and he said, make sure you charge him tenors. And he said, when you're doing this, he said, when you get arrested, I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you will get arrested. You do know that, don't you? He said, there's 3 things they'll do you for. He said, one is possession. That's not so bad. The other one is possession with intent. He said, that means you're in a little bit of shit there. He said, you don't want the third one. You don't want to get done for conspiracy, because that means you're fucked. And when I got arrested for conspiracy, I thought straight back, it's like 15 years ago, thinking, oh, I'm fucked. He said I'm fucked. I'm proper fucked now. So they took me into the garage, sat me down. I'm in shock. I'm not like screaming or crying, but I'm in shock because I'm shocked. So all I remember really about it, but that was how decent the police officer was. I said this on the majority of interviews I've had. It's how good he was and how decent he was about it. And what I mean by that is, I said to him, oh, can I ring my wife to let her know? He said she's going to already know. He said, don't worry, we didn't smash the door down. He said, we waited until most people had gone off the street. He said, we went down discreetly. I said, oh, thank you for that. And I thought that was nice. They didn't need to do that. He said, we know that she knows nothing about it. He said, we know that you've got children, so we're not going to traumatise your children. He said, we've got a job to do. I thought, thank you, that's decent. And then the same chap said, right, can we go outside and look at what's out there? Because I had cars being stored for people, there was parking of cars being sold. He said, we need to know what's yours and whose is whose. So I'm cuffed by now. So I walked out, and he stood next to me. I remember this. So he said, right, that car left. So that one there. He said, keep your hands down, mate. He said, don't show everyone you're in cuffs. I thought, wow, what a decent bloke. He didn't need to do that. He actually cared about how this looked. He said, no, keep your hands down. Just nod at that car over there. Don't show people you're in cuffs. I thought, do you know what? That's a good person, that is. And from this on, this is the one person I ever wanted to meet and say hello to and shake his hand and say, do you know what, mate? You were fucking decent about what you did, how you conducted yourself. I'll never forget that. And I thought, do you know what? It reminded me of being around my dad and the people he was with. He said, you got the cops, just because they're police, they're not the enemy. They're doing a job that they have to do. Mm. And people that see it other than that are just stupid. So I found that he made that whole experience. He left a little nugget of of hope in me, thinking, all right, I'm fucked, but at least I'm being fucked by someone nice. so they took me off down the station and went through the process. So that was the first arrest. Then there's a whole bigger picture of conspiracy. It wasn't just me being nicked. There was everyone in my conspiracy got nicked. There was my suppliers got nicked as well. 2 months later, I then got arrested again as part of their conspiracy. So I got nicked twice for conspiracy, 2 different charges, part of their firm and part of my firm. And then I was remanded in prison in August 2011, first time in jail. And then I got bail September of that same year because there were some riots going on around back then, so there's no room in the prisons. And then I ran a trial the following year, 2012, 7-week trial with 13 co-defendants. There was that many there. They actually had to do 2 trials. So there was trial 1, trial 2, and I was the only person that was involved in these 2 counts of conspiracy. Everyone else had either one or the other. No, I had both. So I was this linchpin between the 2. If you imagine these 2 attribution charts of one conspiracy there and one there, I was the one in the middle. So this was mine, that was theirs, but I was in there connecting them both. So I was the one that was like right in the middle of it, if you like. So I was double fucked, double-ended. And that was it then. Found guilty on May the 17th, 2012. Sentenced to 15 years.
15 years. Yeah. I mean, it sounds a lot. Do you think it was fair?
Poetically, it was
fair collar.
In balance, it was because I was at it for 15 years. So from 95 until 2010, I was at it. So it seems quite a nice even balance, doesn't it? Say, right, you're doing it 15 years. You can have a year for every year. Well, that's fair. Don't come back at me though, because you give me a year for each year. So I thought at the time, I thought it was a kick in the bollocks. But when you start looking at it and the gravity of what I was doing, and you start weighing up the damage to the community. I mean, I'm not being funny. I was very, very blinded to that because people say to me a lot. They say, "Don't you care about the damage to the community?" I said, you take a journey with me from that time when I'm in that club. I take that first pill, and everyone's loving each other, smiling and hugging each other. I'm seeing no damage there at all. I'm just seeing a lot of love, a lot of fun, people functioning, going to work. That was their weekend. I saw no damage, but I maintained that look. I was fixated on that aspect of the drugs industry. I failed to really take into consideration that some of those people moved on to cocaine, and some of those people would have got addicted, and some of those people would have lost everything as a result of that addiction. But now I know more about addiction and trauma and everything else. I can't say it was necessarily the drugs that caused the addiction. The drugs were a reason to use, or something they were there to use to help with the problem which is causing the addiction. So I look at the balance of the damage and how it's what's been done over those 15 years. And I think a 15-year sentence, I think it's fair. I'll do half of that inside, half of it outside. I'm still doing it now. I've got another 2.5 years to go. So
you're out on license now?
Yeah, I'm on I've actually fortunately found out last month from my probation officer that I'm eligible for the Great Probation Reset, which kicks in for me next month, which means basically as of the 15th of August, 15th of July, sorry, I'm no longer monitored. I still have conditions. Nothing changes conditions wise, but I don't have to report anymore. So I don't have to go back in. Right. So it just means one less trip into town once a month. But yeah, so I think the 15 years I think it was fair. It was fair. Prison was a.
So what was it like going to jail then?
It was all right. I think once there's a level of acceptance. I think once you accept that you're going to go to prison, you can't change it. Like going to a unit for that first year, you can't change it. It's a very much it's an identical mindset. You can either survive or you can thrive. And I thought in the army I survived because I was just fuck assing about all the time, becoming a nightmare. In prison I thrived because I was grown up. I went away at 42. I thought I can do this. I've done this before in the army, and this shouldn't be too much different to that. And what I found was it was actually a lot easier than going into the forces. I found it easy in the sense of being a veteran. that mentality helped. It makes you become a very good prisoner. And I used that 7 years or 7.5 years to completely reboot myself, to completely change everything. I was drinking excessively before I went away. I was carrying a lot of weight, which was causing me problems. And I thought, I'm going away, and I thought, I'm never going to get a chance like this again. It's like basic again. So I just hit the gym, started exercising, started using my mind again properly. And I just opened my mind a little bit to what the world could offer for someone that isn't applying that for not getting caught. Because if you imagine when you see someone involved in drugs, imagine this pyramid. You see the tip of it is what you really see. The stuff that's buried under the ground, this massive structure which you can't see. The foundation that's everything you put into not getting caught. All of the phones you use, the keep changing the cars, being evasive, meetings, looking at people. So much effort goes into not getting caught. People only see the very top little part. So once I found that energy that I had released from being involved in that, applied in a different direction, it was just like, wow, look at this. I feel so much energy in what I'm trying to do. And that was it. It was just life changing. For me, prison was, it was about rebooting, supporting veterans. That was a massive thing for me. Was I was a veterans rep for 5 years in one prison, and I just did everything was veterans, lived, breathed it. So I learned so much about the difficulty of transition coming out of the forces. I wrote a course on transition, which I was delivering. A huge amount of work, a huge amount of effort put into while I was inside, and I continue now. I mean, my journey now is more therapy based through trauma, but I'm still very passionate about supporting any veterans that struggle with their transition. I fucked up on every way you possibly could imagine coming out, so there's not much I can give some sort of advice on, or some sort of at least a bit of perspective is needed.
I know so one of the things that's become very apparent through all the podcasts I've done up to now is the transition from being in the forces to becoming a civic.
Yeah.
It's traumatic in a way. I mean, don't get me wrong. The majority of people can handle it and stuff like that. But I'd say that a good majority of people who are getting out the forces aren't ready.
No.
Aren't ready to leave the forces at all, and that's. I mean, I've spoke to people. We've tried to come up with solutions. Should they do this a bit earlier? Should they transition? Especially if you've done like a full term. I mean, I did it 27 years.
Yeah.
I'm still a fucking soldier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you start preparing 3 years before you get out? And some people say, well, I was doing that anyway. I bought a house, I did this, I did that, the other. But all right, that's the individual doing it. A fucking big lump of guys getting out of the military don't know what they're doing. Don't know what they're walking into. I didn't.
No.
You know what I mean? Because you're conditioned, you're
Yeah.
institutionalized. There should be the transition from the resettlement and everything, that should be stretched out a lot further.
Yeah.
You should be, as you're doing your courses your first aid course every year and doing your test and your weapon handling test and stuff like that. When you've got up to like, I don't know, maybe it's 4 year, 5 year left, especially on like a full term, you should be like, all right, go and do that. Go and do a housing brief. Do this, do that, the other. But there isn't time. And now the army's so small, they wouldn't be able to do it anyway. No. But something's got to happen like that. Or we're going to end up with more and more people leaving the forces who are just going to fall down. They're going to fall down.
I don't think that you can. There's certain aspects that you can never change. I mean, I know that when we all go in young, don't we? 16, 17, 18 years old. And if you do at least 6 or 7 years, your prefrontal cortex development is hardwired everything you learn. So everything you do, live or breathe in the forces, is hardwired. It's part of your development, and you can't undo that. So when you come out, all this stuff that you've learned in the forces about it's part of you. You can never not be that soldier. The best that we can do is to understand Civvy Street as a veteran. And I think more people need to be involved in clubs, involved in breakfast clubs, involved in... There's a great organisation that I know down in Kent called Operation Jackdaw, and they do campings free of charge for veterans. And they go down to have a night. It's a dry night. It's underneath the stars, campfire, a bit of food, talking. Just a load of veterans talking. And things like that is what I think we miss. And sometimes I think we shy away from it. We come out and we think, I just want to get on with life now, and you don't bother with it because you don't think you need it. But we do need that. We need to know that with that part of our brain that is craving for it, you don't know it's craving. You just feel weird or isolated. But you realise that it might be something simple like just going for a fucking walk with a backpack on. You know, just something simple, or just go and set up an OP somewhere in a wood. Just do something daft which reminds you of the forces, because that's what your brain needs to do. It needs to do something it understands. Otherwise, it gets confused. And I think that's why so many things out there, like certainly a lot of the adventure training side of things with other veterans, you miss that banter, don't you? You miss the piss taking and everything else. And there's plenty of charities out there. If anyone's struggling, just go on the Veterans Gateway and Google stuff on there. Just Google activities for veterans, and it's rarely if you got to pay for it. Rarely do you have to pay any money.
Yeah, I mean, as we discussed beforehand, I mean, I've started like going through a little bit of a journey myself. I mean, by the time this comes out, because it won't be for a good few months, I'll be a lot settled, more settled.
Yeah.
But you're right about that. You miss it, and sometimes you don't realise. So part of my problem was that a couple of years, probably a year, 2 years after I got out, I kind of, I left the army. We moved into a nice house, settled into Civvy Street. It was a town I'd never lived in. We went from here. We moved up here to be close to my daughter and her kids, and we started having a bit of a life, going out once a week and stuff like that, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, I got to a point where I didn't want to go out. I'd go to work, I'd go shopping, but I didn't want to go out. I didn't know why.
Yeah.
And it's only now, years later, after I've spoke to people and seen the counsellor, that was me reacting to Civvy Street.
Yeah.
Wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
Couldn't, and thinking, everything's going to be all right. But there was something missing in me. And it was that. It was that. It's like the first night we ever left and moved into the house, our first night we moved into the house, a police car went past. And me and the missus at the time were like, fuck that.
Not used to seeing it, are you?
Blue lights and everything. What's that doing? We're up the window like that. Oh, what the fuck is going on? But it was so alien.
Yeah.
And daft things like seeing idiots in the street, fucking druggies and stuff like that. I mean, I know it sounds a bit snobbish, but I'm not used to it.
No.
And I still ain't.
And the thing as well,
and I'm just like,
it's like if you're in the forces and let's say you're on leave, whether you're married or singly, is when you go on leave, you're in Civvy Street, it's always temporary, isn't it? You've always got that solace. You're going to go back to the unit, you're going to go back and get back in uniform, and you've got that, so you can tolerate the civilian environment for a short period of time. But when you're out there all the time, it becomes your new life. You suddenly think, shit, I'm not getting that time off. I'm here all the time, and I don't know how to do this. I still stand in rooms every time I go to a house, not a house party, a gathering, for example. Even if it's with my family, I don't feel like I belong. I still feel like, how do I engage with this? Because we're never current with what's going on with them, are we? They've all see each other all the time, chat every day, and everyone knows each other. The ins and outs of a cat's ass, and you're always on catch up, and you feel like you're on catch up, and in the end, you just feel, I can't fucking ask for this, because by the time I've caught up with you, in 3 months' time, I've got to catch up again. You're just not saying nothing, and I think that was me. That was me on leave. It was like I just won't bother anymore. There's no point. And then you then realise then that you definitely struggle to adapt and belong. And it is hard. It is hard for them. But there's always people out there. There's so many organisations out there which can help. And there's some really successful veterans that have struggled and are there to support other veterans with lived experience who can say, look, give it time. Have you thought about doing this? Have you considered maybe doing this for a change? And there's always something. There is always a solution to a problem. It's just finding it.
Yeah, and try and reiterate that to anyone who's listening who's struggling. Don't try and hold it in. Don't try and keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You've got to either talk to a friend, talk to a family member. What I've found is talking to complete fucking strangers works.
Sometimes, yeah.
It helps me. You can talk to a stranger. Sometimes easier than to talk to someone you know. You talk to a stranger, and you're not trying to hide anything, or what I mean. It's like it's more comfortable type of thing.
definitely. It's the whole thing about boxing it off. It doesn't work in the end. It's if you box it off, it's still there. It's got to be dealt with in some way or other. It's got to be managed.
Right, Rich, we're coming up to 2 hours. Yeah, it's flown by.
Yeah.
It's been good. I've really enjoyed your
I've
story.
lost the light as well.
I'm like conflicted. It was like I'm thinking I shouldn't be enjoying it. He was a fucking naughty boy. You know, he deserved everything he got. But then I said, like again, going back to layer cake, it's just like I'm glad your story ended up better than his did.
Well,
anyway,
ain't over yet.
Yeah,
I'm not dead yet.
So before we end this, there's one thing a couple of things I want to ask you about and mention as well. So you've had 2 books published. I'm going to link them in the show notes when this comes out. You know, I'll take it on Amazon.
Yeah, so the option is you go direct to Amazon to get them, or the quickest link would be to go to my website, and the links are on there. So rather than trying to go on Amazon and typing in various searches, go to my website, which is iamrichjones.co.uk. Books, follow the links. I'm doing signed copies. Yeah. There's information there if you want signed copies. So yeah,
we'll get that up there. The other thing is TikTok.
Yes.
So how the fuck did that come about?
So do you know what? I started off a bit of a whim initially. When did I get? I tried a couple of attempts in really early 2020, COVID time. Excuse me. And I just went on it. I thought, what is this all about? And I just looking at it, and I didn't even do any posts. I was just scrolling through. I thought, okay, I understand. Yeah. It looks interesting. And then I thought to myself, the book's coming out due out in November 2020. The first book was due out. But I need to find a way to get a social media presence. And I thought, I don't really get with Facebook. And I've heard that this TikTok is massive, especially when people are locked down. I didn't know this at the time. So I went on and I started off, I didn't mention anything about the criminal background. Kept that completely quiet. Did a few veteran things, and it was called Squaddy versus Civvy. And it was showing a comparison of how a civilian would do something compared to a squaddy. One of them was drinking a pint of piss. You know, a squaddy, oh yeah, that's nice, and drink that. A civvy would just puke up. I think that's disgusting. You know? So I did a few of those, and I did one, and I think it might have been the eating one where I showed a squad eating really fast. And I just sped it up, and I've just forgot about it for a day, and I come out and had 80,000 views. I thought, what the hell has just happened? And I've suddenly got like 300 followers. I thought, whoa, okay, I see now. I get this. That happened. I didn't even put any effort in for that. That was like a few minutes. So I started doing posting about being a veteran and coming out, and it wasn't getting much movement. And then I did one, and it was about spice, because I thought, okay, let's talk a little bit more about this, because no one knows about that other side of me yet. They just know a little bit about the veteran side. And all of a sudden, people realised that I'd been to prison. I changed my profile saying, right, ex-forces, ex-bodyguard, ex-organised crime boss, ex-prisoner. So I thought, put all those, and ex-husband, put all those down there. And all of a sudden, there was a massive interest in the criminal element to it. And I thought, that's where the market is for me. And that's exactly where the book's going to sell. So I just hit TikTok with a vengeance during 2020, 2021, and it went nuts. I mean, but people were off work. They were furloughed.
Yeah.
They were bored. It was a very different animal then. And it just went up. You know, I think on that account before I lost it, like 65,000 followers, I think. But that's my shelf life with my accounts. I'm on my 4th one now. Whenever I get to 75 was the last one, I generally lose it through violations. It doesn't last long. But it was a great platform to throw yourself out there. And I've met some really interesting people and some really interesting contacts as well for work, for business. I would say 100% of my stuff, anything work related, has come through TikTok, whether it be book sales or opportunities. It's all come through TikTok because of that social media presence. It's huge. And it throws it all out there. It throws it everywhere. Some of my greatest hits on there have been some of the worst ones. I got my most viral post I ever did, 2.4 million views, because I said that prison sex wasn't gay, just in banter, and then Of course, that polarizes opinions. People start to say, oh, it is gay. No, it's not. Every comment pushed it further. And there were thousands of comments, thousands of shares. 2.4 million people think I'll take it out of the ass. So
I was going to say 2.4 million people. Can they be wrong?
Statistically speaking, someone's got to be right. So yeah. So
I know what you mean about the like the odd thing going mad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd been playing with it, and I mean, I'm just looking at it at the moment, really. And I was mucking about with it when I first started doing a podcast. I mean, the guy at work, he was showing my son, look, I've had 100 views on that one and stuff like that. He says, well, what's that one there? That's had like 500. I was like, what the fuck's that?
Yeah.
And basically, I fell asleep in bed in front of me. And it was like a 20-second clip of me just like...
And that got 500 views.
People were like liking
That's
it. And I'm
mad,
like,
isn't it?
I'm like,
It's
delete
Yeah.
that. But I put one out last week, or the week before, so, yeah, last week, with Tim Davies, and he was on about like poverty in the UK, how we don't actually see, a majority of us don't see the poverty that's there, and because we run about people joining the military and how hard it is for them at the moment, with everything's online and mobile phones, and some families can't afford mobile phones, and they don't have them. And he was saying like there's a level of of poverty that the general public don't see. And it's people like that who can't afford a phone and stuff like that. And I put that out, and then about 2:00 in the afternoon, I leave work at 5:30, and it had like 3,000 views. And I was like,
hell,
that's a bit mad. That's mad, that. By the time I'd got home 20 minutes later, it had 6,000. I was like, what the fuck's got here? Got up the next morning, it done 14,000 views.
It's mad, isn't it?
So I was like, it's just hitting it, right? Or something, or whatever, someone picks up on it, or whatever. All the others I've ever done are like 300. I'm quite happy with 300 people.
Do you know, when I had that, the 2.4 million one, I was watching it, because you can refresh your screen and it shows you how many more views have gone on there. And once it gets to 1 million, it only registers every 100,000 views. So let's say it was on 2 million, and I swipe down and refresh it. It says 2,100,000. Swipe 2,200,000. It was literally seeing 100,000 people every 5 or 10 seconds. That's like that. Wow. That's once the algorithm picks it up, and the way that the secret trick on that is, it's not so much when you post or anything like that. It's having something which polarizes people's opinions, where people are going to argue the toss on your behalf. It's like throwing a fucking depth charge in something, walk away and let them get on with it, and come back and think, Christ, look at that, it's just got on with it. And having a screenshot of something which will get someone's interest, usually something current. I did. Someone asked me about that Jay Slater that went missing over in Tenerife, and I just mentioned it, and I don't even use any hashtags anymore. And that went like 130,000 views within a couple of days. And I thought, I don't even know the bloke. I just said he's probably buried somewhere in Tenerife or something like that, and that was it. It's just like, nah, and people arguing. So that's what we want, is people's opinions polarized on your post. That's what makes it work. Every comment pushes it a little bit further.
I'll just call everyone twats.
Perfect.
Right, I'm going to end the recording there. Rich, again, thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Welcome.
It's been, honestly, it's been brilliant. And I say that to everyone, it's been brilliant, because they all are brilliant. Yeah. Even like the lowest gunner that we've had on, he's like, I was only in a couple of years.
Yeah.
He just like told his story, and it was great.
It's good, isn't it?
Everyone's got a story in them.
Absolutely, mate, 100%.
Get it out there, share it. Right, I'll stop the recording now.